What's up, YouTube? Jay Lee here. I just want to make this one kind of brief. I just finished watching Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It was pretty good. I liked War for the Planet of the Apes. I thought that was a stellar film. I've always been into film, so I appreciate films from the cinematography standpoint, from the directing standpoint, from the acting, from the dialogue, right? All the elements. I've always really liked film, but one thing, and again, I don't. This is not a conspiracy theory channel. I don't go in. That's not something that I consistently do, but I do from time to time. But it's interesting to notice once you sort of learn how to read their language. I forget who it was who said it, but he said once the world learns how to read the language of secret symbolism, a whole new dawn will age, or something like that. But the whole thing, with the occult is they're all about symbols, and they're all about hiding things within symbolism. So if you learn how to read the symbolism, you'll just start noticing it everywhere. And people who kind of know about this stuff probably know about that movie They Live with Roddy Piper. Very interesting film, really poignant as far as conspiracy theories and really hiding things in plain sight. Because again, when you study the occult, you learn that this is how they do it. And again, occultism is just Satanism. Occultism is just Satanism. Occultism is just alternative religion. It's just satanic religion. Has its roots in paganism and all this kind of deep, ancient crap, which was always counter to God and counter to Jehovah and then of course there's all these lies that come out like, the Bible is just taken from mythology and all this crap, which has been debunked a bunch of times. Anyways, not to digress too far, but I like movies, and I liked War for the Planet of the Apes. The one before that was pretty good too. I forgot what that one was called. The first one was okay. The first new one was okay. I think Mark Wahlberg was in that one or something like that. James Franco, I think. It was okay. The first one with Charlton Heston, I'm not sure if that was the very first one, but the one with Charlton Heston was good too. It's an interesting concept, what they're doing. It is an interesting concept, but I think this new one, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, what I think it does is it kind of consolidates a lot of ideas from the other ones. It kind of brings a lot of ideas together and sort of gives you a little bit more view of kind of where they were, where the writers were going with this, what they were trying to do. Again, I think it was made in like the 60s or the 70s, so it's a really long time. It's a long period of time to piece all those things together, and then things are missing probably, and maybe what they did with the new movies is not the same as what the intention of the original writers might not have been, etc. But I like what they did with it, sort of, because it kind of consolidates it all, and it sort of gives it a sort of a good movie leaves you with things to think about. A good movie makes you think. A good movie leaves you with things to think about. And so I want to talk about a couple of those things, I guess. I think that there's a lot of elements of evolution in it. A lot of elements of and this is how, Satan works. He works through real subtleties. And he works through progressive mind manipulation. What I mean by that is he'll present an idea to people, but he'll present it in a very nice, soft way, a very kind of a way that gets you to accept it. And then once you accept it, incrementally he can lead you to where he wants you to go. This is essentially kind of how brainwashing works. It's how, what's the word? Mind manipulation, but it's neuro-linguistic programming is one of them. The other one is it's hypnosis. It's a type of hypnosis. Neuro-linguistic programming is one of them, but it's there's a whole study on this, and it has to do with when you present certain images, or you present certain sound waves, or you present certain phrases over and over and over again, the mind starts to accept that these things are real, basically, which is kind of like neurolinguistic programming, but essentially it's mind bending. It's mental manipulation to get you to believe something, and this is why so many people out there become atheists. This is why so many people out there become They believe in evolution. I had a girlfriend when I was like in my early 20s, and she was telling me that she's an atheist, and I was like, oh, you kind of asking her questions about it, and she was, and I kind of cornered it down to like she just got taught that, and I think like middle school or something, she just got taught evolution theory, and she just accepted it and believed it. I guess you could argue on the flip side that people in Christianity or people in whatever whatever other religion, they get taught the same thing at a young age. I would say what you got to do is when you become an adult and you learn how to think for yourself, you need to figure all of this out on your own, right? Don't go off of what people teach you and things like that. It's so easy to do that. It's so easy to go off on what your parents taught you, or find out for yourself, and do it in a rational way. And so one thing that I did was, I tested things out, and what worked for me was prayer. What worked for me was reading the Bible, mixing that with faith, but it was also praying. Now, I did grow up a Christian, but I went through a period where I wasn't going to church, and I was, I was just in a dark place, and my mind was dark, and I do believe people who are far away from God, their mentality is dark. I believe that. And I'd also liken becoming a Christian to leaving the Matrix, right? Leaving the Matrix. But I'm not sitting here and preaching. I'm just kind of comparing and contrasting things. But I would say there's a lot of elements of evolution in that, in that movie. And that's probably what they were going for in the first one, was like this kind of twisted, because it's a sci-fi movie, and sci-fi movies, particularly in the 60s and 70s, tended to be like way out there, like it's such a crazy concept that like these guys are flying around space or whatever, and then they land on this planet and they don't realize that it's actually Earth in the way future and all this stuff. And now because there was a disease or whatever that was released on humanity, apes and monkeys became sentient, or I don't know if that's the right word, not sentient, but they learned how to speak. Their brains developed, and humans' brains de-developed or whatever. It's a crazy concept, but that's sci-fi for you. And if you're into film, you're into like TV history and stuff like that, like I have been in my life, you'll know that like back then, the 60s and 70s, like they had far out wild films and far out TV shows that were just had crazy concepts and stuff. I mean, Twilight Zone's one of them, right? So it's a crazy concept, but when you look at the occult aspect of it, so one of the first things we see in this film is we see symbolism, right? This as above, so below symbol, which is that's the occult. As above, so below. That's Satanism. And you see that symbol at the very beginning. It's on the guy's pendant, his necklace. It's on the wall in someone's, whatever, at some point. And then he meets after his tribe. I don't want to spoil it for people but who haven't seen it. But after his tribe or whatever gets kidnapped, he meets this guy. He meets this other monkey. And this other monkey was teaching him about books, and he's like, we discovered these books, and and he says it's an ancient way to store ideas, and it's an ancient way to convey symbolism. And he says this phrase in that movie. He says symbolism. He says there's meaning in symbols. That's a way of hiding who they are in plain sight. First of all, the as above, so below sign. You'll see that all over. Of course, there's the one eye symbolism you'll see a lot in Hollywood, but it's a lot of times they don't keep it in movies. A lot of times it's just in their print, in their magazines, and in their photos. And it's not just Hollywood; it's also the entertainment industry, which of course is linked to Hollywood. But it's all occult. It's one big occult cult, right? It's a cult. All of Hollywood, all the entertainment industry is one big satanic cult. It really is. The people who run it set it up that way. The people who own it set it up that way. It's just what it is. They're all sickos. They're all degenerates. They're all Satanists to some degree, right? Or they're just affiliated, right? And it doesn't mean there's not good people who are actors. It doesn't mean there's not these people aren't Christian, necessarily, but it's difficult to be. I think it's difficult to be a really practicing Christian in that environment. It's not that they won't let you in. It's just that you got to do weird stuff, and it's there's a big rabbit hole you can go down. I'm not going to talk about it, I'm not going to get in deep to all that, but let's just say that it's ran by people who are into the occult, and I would say it also bleeds over, probably saturates politics to a great degree. It saturates the media. So these are the people who run the world. It's sad, sorry to say, and you can say it's conspiracy theory, whatever, but you do your research. It's 2024, I got at least 10 years of research doing this stuff. Now, it's not deep research every day. It's casual, I just read stuff here and there, and you learn and you piece stuff together. But it's always interesting to see it, because they love to hide it in plain sight. They love to put these little symbols and stuff in their films. Again, you'll see that as above, so below pendant all throughout the film. They keep showing it, and there's really no reason to show it. It really doesn't even make sense to the plot. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just a symbol. And you could say, like, oh, well, that's their tribe's symbol or whatever. And, you look at ancient tribes and they had all these symbols and stuff, which is part of, I guess you could say, is part of human nature to create symbols and create these things. But, at some point, symbolism became attached to certain groups. Certain groups had symbols. And again, the occult, one of their main symbols is as above, so below. They've got other symbols like the eagle, the pyramid, the all-seeing eye, right? If you study the occult, you know what I'm talking about. You can get into this stuff. But as above, so below is one of their main ones. And it's in that film all throughout. Then, of course, there's this concept of evolution, which I've probably talked about once or twice before, but not a whole lot. Evolution is totally from Satan, the concept of evolution. Adaptation is real. Adaptation to environment is real, but how much it really affects next generations and things like that is it varies. It matters. You'll look at certain animals in one region, and even though they're the same species as an animal from the other region, they develop different certain colors or different certain habits of living or different certain ways of survival. That's adaptation. Right? How evolution, how Darwin taught it, is not real. It doesn't exist. There's no species that changes from one species to another species. That's evil. That doesn't work. That doesn't happen. That's not real. That's from Satan. And the reason behind it is to make us feel like we are not connected to God, to make us feel like we're not made in the image of God. It's a direct attack on God, really. It's a direct attack on creation itself, because what does creation say? What does the Bible talk about creation? It says God created all animals according to their kind, meaning all animals according to their species. You have the bird species, you've got the tiger lion species, you've got the dog species, you've got the cat species. These are different species, right? And some of them are somewhat related, but you don't go from one species. One species does not evolve into another species. That's not how God created things. That's not how nature is. Because God created things in order, right? All creation gives expression and testimony of who God is and his design. So evolution is a direct attack on that. It's basically... It's a massive tool that makes people makes people disassociate, disconnect, and not believe in God. It's an effective tool. Satan is not dumb. He does things effectively, which is why feminism is so effective, because he knows that it breaks up the family unit. He knows that it's extremely effective at warping female mentality, right? So he's behind it. So who's behind evolution? Satan. It's not just Darwin. Okay, here's the thing about Darwin. Now we're getting into conspiracy theories. Darwin was a Freemason. How do I know? Because he makes the Freemason symbols in his pictures. He's got one where his hand is in his shirt. However they do it, they put the hand in the shirt or whatever. I don't know what you want to call it. They put their hand in their cuff or whatever. Over the breast of or inside the breast of their shirt. That's one of their symbols. Another one of their symbols is finger over the mouth symbol, which is the sign of secrecy, meaning that they will not give up their secrets. They will not give up their higher secrets or whatever, which is part of their mantra, or not mantra, but part of their code. Forget what the term for it is, but it's in the Freemason code, where they're not supposed to, once they reach a high level of knowledge, they're not supposed to give away their secrets or some BS. It's not real knowledge. I mean, maybe they have some knowledge, but there's nothing new under the sun. Wisdom is accessible. They don't have anything that you don't have. Everything is, there's no such thing as secret knowledge. There's no, it's all BS. It's a bunch of smoke and mirrors. And when you really pull back the curtain, all it is Satanism. All it is just the worship of Satan. But it's linked to higher power people. It's linked to people who are higher powered are in that club, right? And so they are the ones who put out the music. They're the ones who put out the movies and the TV. And there's all this insidious, not just symbolism, but imagery. There's all this insidious ideas and stuff, and it's programming. There's this great website out there. I found it about 10 years ago, but I lost. Sometimes I had it on my email, and then I kind of lost sight of it a little bit. It's probably still on my email somewhere. I forget what the website is called, but it has all this information on the occult. Has all this information on like the Bible and like why certain things are the way they are, and a lot of what it, some of the things it talks about is like neurolinguistic or programming. It talks about certain music and certain repetition, how they brainwash people through the music with choruses and repetition and things like that. And then it also talks about like the hertz of the music. I think it's called gigahertz or something like a kilohertz, something like that. The frequency of the music. There's certain frequencies that mess with the brain differently in certain ways. So you listen to certain types of music, it puts you in a certain kind of mood because of the frequency of the music. So it talks about frequencies and how certain frequencies are used, and then it talks about spell casting and like witchcraft and how like there's a lot of that behind music and like certain certain frequencies and certain ways that they layer the music, or is really satanic, and it can kind of warp your brain in certain ways, and it can get you to accept ideas within the lyrics and stuff. All this weird, creepy stuff, and it's a mind-blowing website. I wish I could remember the name of it. I'll have to go look for it. But I think you could probably type in like Bible. I think how I found it was I was looking for like Bible. Biblical reasons for physical illness, biblical reasons for disease. You could probably type in some of those keywords, something like that. It might come up. But it's this whole website about all this information, about all different stuff, about like how certain curses happen, how certain sins happen, how certain diseases and things happen. And then it talks a lot about the occult and how the occult, again, how they operate and how they move within popular music and popular films. So I would say my point by saying all that is that film is one of the main ways that people are brainwashed. Film is one of the main ways that gets people to accept certain ideas. So what I see when I watch a movie like Kingdom for the Planet of the Apes is I see like there's all these elements of like, and in most movies there's the element of good versus evil, right? There's the protagonist, and he's the good person. He's the good guy. He's got to go on the Odyssey. Odyssey is one of the greatest stories ever written because the way that the story unfolds is basically one of the templates that is mostly used for most movies. Is like there's this hero, he has to fight this villain, or he has to fight this major evil or some kind of bad, or he's got some kind of journey to go on. He's got something to overcome. He's got to go on this journey to overcome something, and that's what makes a good film most of the time. And it's a good template, and that's all based on the Odyssey. I think Homer wrote the Odyssey, I forget, but anyway, he has to go on this long journey, and then he finally comes home, and he's restored, or he saves the day, or he saves the girl. It's all the same kind of crap, right? So that's the same template as we see in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So there's always this good versus evil, and then there's a lot of stuff mixed in. There's a lot of stuff that's hidden. So when I watch stuff like that, I watch it from a different view. It's not like I'm just I'm sitting there watching a good movie. I'm looking. I wouldn't even say I'm looking. I'm just, stuff just pops up. I just notice it. It's just there. It's just there, right? All of a sudden I see this. Oh, there's the as above, so below pendant symbol, right? So there's that. So there's the